Hello everyone. In this video series, we are going to start the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015. So let us start from the introduction. The Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 is an important piece of legislation in India that addresses the legal framework for care, protection, and rehabilitation of children in conflict with law and children in need of care and protection. So, here, juvenile refers to any child who is below the age of 18 years. The Juvenile Justice Act 2015 provides protection, care, and rehabilitation for two categories of children, that is the children in conflict with law and the children who are in need of care and protection. So, here, the children in conflict with law are those children who have committed any crime, and the children in need of care and protection are those children who became orphan or has been kidnapped or were involved in any moral trafficking, etc. So the juvenile justice provides care, protection, and rehabilitation to both these categories of children. So the act primarily seeks to ensure that the rights and interests of children are protected and that they are provided with appropriate care and protection. So the act obtained the consent of the president on 31st December 2015 and came into force from January 15th, 2016. So the Juvenile Justice Act came into enforcement on January 15th, 2016. So now let us understand the objectives of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. The primary objective of the Act is to provide for a comprehensive legal framework for dealing with children who come into conflict with the law and children in need of care and protection. So, the main objective of the Act is to provide care and protection to these both categories of children, that is, the children in conflict with law and children in need of care and protection. It aims to establish a child-friendly approach to the justice system, focusing on the rehabilitation and reintegration of the children in conflict with law rather than punitive measures. So, if any child commits any offense, then the Act focuses on rehabilitating and changing the behavior of the child through reformative measures rather than punitive measures. So, punitive measures includes imposing fines or imprisonment. So, the Juvenile Justice Act main objective is to differentiate the punishment which is given to an adult and to that of a child. So, to a child who commits an offense, reformative measures are used as it is believed that a child is capable to change. So, if any child commits an offense, he shall be treated differently from that of an adult. So, this is the main objective of enacting the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. And the next objective is the Act is based on principles of the best interest of child, non-stigmatization, and dignity and worth of the child. So, it also focuses on the dignity, worth, and to follow all the principles which are at the best interest of the child. So, now let us understand the application of the Act. So, the Act applies to all children in India defined as individuals below the age of 18 years. So, to all those children who are below the age of 18 years, and if he or she commits any offense or is under need of care and protection, the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 shall apply to them. So, it applies to children in conflict with law, which includes children accused of committing offences as well as children in need of care and protection, such as abandoned child or orphaned children, victims of trafficking, or those in vulnerable situations. So, to all these categories of children also, the Act applies. And the Act outlines the procedures and mechanisms for dealing with both categories of children, ensuring their protection, welfare, and rehabilitation. So, the Act also provides the procedures and rules which shall be followed for dealing with both these categories of children. So, now let us understand some important definitions under this Act. So, Section 2 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 have given the meaning of some terms. So, in this video, I have explained only some important definitions. So the first subsection states about abandoned child. Abandoned child means a child deserted by his biological or adoptive parents or guardians who has been declared as abandoned by the committee after due inquiry. So, abandoned child is a child below the age of 18 years and who is left or deserted either by their adoptive parents or biological parents, that is their own parents or any other parents who have adopted the child and left him or her somewhere, or they could be legal guardians, that is either relatives or any other legal guardian of the child. So that child is called an abandoned child. And the second subsection states about adoption. Adoption means the process through which the adopted child is permanently separated from his biological parents and becomes the lawful child of his adoptive parents, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities that are attached to a biological child. So, here, abandoned child and adoption are related to the child in need of care and protection. So, we will use the short forms, that is, we will use CCL for the child in conflict with law, that is, a child who have committed any crime, and CCP for child in need of care and protection, that is, any child who is left abandoned or was involved in some illegal trafficking, etc., comes under the CCP. So here, abandoned child and adoption are related to the child in need of care and protection. So the process of adoption means separating a child from their biological parents, that is their own parents, to some other parents who want to adopt the child. So this process is called as adoption. And the next clause is aftercare. Aftercare means making provision of support, financial or otherwise, to persons who have completed the age of 18 years but have not completed the age of 21 years and left in institutional care to join the mainstream of the society. So, those children who were given protection and financial support when they were below the age of 18 years by either the child welfare committee. So the child welfare committee is a committee which is established under the Juvenile Justice Act for the care and protection of the child in need of care and protection. So those children who were under the child welfare committee or under any other institutional care, and now they want to lead their independent life and join the mainstream society. So at that time, the support, either financially or in any other way, is called as aftercare. And the next clause is child. So, child means a person who has not completed the age of 18 years. So, any person who have not completed or below the age of 18 years, then he or she will be considered as a child. So, under the definition of child or under the term child, both the CCP and CCL will come under the definition of child. And the next clause is child in conflict with law. So, child in conflict with law means a child who is alleged or found to have committed an offense and who has not completed the age of 18 years of age on the date of commission of such offense. So, any child who have committed an offense below the age of 18 years, that is, for example, let's say a child aged 15 years have committed a theft. So, A is now called as child in conflict with law. So, the offense must be committed by the person when he is below the age of 18 years. Then only he will be considered as a child in conflict with law. And the next clause is child in need of care and protection. So, the child in need of care and protection covers various kinds of children who are in miserable conditions and who need care and protection. So, the first kind of children, a child who is found without any home or settled place of abode and without any ostensible means of subsistence. So any child who have no home to live and he is on the streets or without any place to live, then that child come under the definition of child in need of care and protection. And the next kind is a child who is found working in contravention of labor laws for the time being in force or is found begging, living on the street, etc. So any child who is working against that is in those factories or industries where children are prohibited from working, but a child is working against those rules and regulations, then those children needed to be protected from such conditions. And the next is a child who resides with a person, whether a guardian of the child or not, and such person has injured, exploited, abused, or neglected the child, or has violated any other law for the time being in force meant for the protection of child, or has threatened to kill, injure, exploit, or abuse the child, and there is a reasonable likelihood of threat being carried out. So when a child is living with a person who is his legal guardian, or he may not be his legal guardian, but the child is living with that person, and that person or guardian has injured the child, or has done any of these acts, in that cases also the child comes under this definition. Or the guardian has killed, abused, neglected, or exploited some other child or children, and there is a reasonable likelihood of the child in question being killed, abused, exploited, or neglected by that person. So the guardian or the person with whom the child is living currently has committed any of these offenses, that is exploiting some other child, or has killed or abused, and there is likeliness that the present child who is living with the guardian likely to be facing the same consequence, then in that cases also those children or child shall be protected. And the next kind is a child who is mentally ill, or mentally or physically challenged, or suffering from terminal or incurable disease, having no one to support or look after, or having parents or guardians unfit to take care, if so found by the board or the committee. So if any child is ill, either mentally or physically, and their parents are unable to look after the child, that kind of children also are called as child in need of care and protection. Or any other child who has a parent or guardian, and such parent or guardian is found to be unfit or incapacitated by the committee or the board to take care for and protect the safety and well-being of the child. In this case, the child is unfit. Here, if the parent or guardian is unfit and unable to look after the child, then in that cases also the board can take the child for their well-being and safety. The sixth clause is a child who does not have parents and no one is willing to take care of the child, or whose parents have abandoned or surrendered him. So where a child is an orphan, or left him or her, or who is missing, or a runaway child, or whose parents cannot be found after making reasonable inquiry in such manner as may be prescribed. So the definition also covers those children who are runaway, that is, have run away from their home, and now their parents could not be found after making reasonable inquiry. Those children also come under this definition. And the next is a child who has been or being or is likely to be abused, tortured, or exploited for the purpose of sexual abuse or illegal acts, or who is found vulnerable and is likely to be inducted into drug abuse or trafficking. So all these kind of children are also needed to be protected under the act. And the next kind is a child who is being or is likely to be abused for unconscionable gains. That is, if a person is using a child for any unlawful gains, if any person uses the child for the purposes of begging or for any other unlawful gains, in that cases also the child comes under this definition. And the next is who is victim of or affected by any armed conflict, civil unrest, or natural calamity. So any child who is affected by any of the armed conflict, civil unrest, that is during any war, or in any natural calamity, that is floods, or under any civil unrest, that is any protest which is caused by any public, then in that cases where a child is affected or of victim due to the conflict, war, or natural calamity, those children are also needed to be protected under the act. And the last kind of children is a child who is at imminent risk of marriage before attaining the age of marriage, and whose parents, family members, guardian, and any other persons are likely to be responsible for solemnization of such marriage. So, any child before attaining the age of marriage, that is, to a girl child, the age of marriage is 18 and to a boy is 21. So, before attaining the age of 18 and 21, if a child is getting married by either their parents, family members, or any guardian, those children are also needed to be protected and comes under the definition of child in need of care and protection. So, these are some important definitions under the Act. And in the next class, I'll continue some other definitions. That's all in this video. I hope you all have understood it. Thank you.